So, next video, I'm going on analyzing the different members of the Belgian mafia. After that, I will return to the members of the Hungarian mafia itself. So I told about Vincent Junta, main boss. Then there is also another prominent member, which is called Till Emmanuel. Till Emmanuel is a pedopsychiatrist, together with his wife, Valérie Provost, which is a pediatrist. They are both living at the address 5 Rue du Château in the village of Molenbeek near Tournai, Belgium. What I can say is that Till Emmanuel is a big money launderer. That he part of his wealth, and he bought many grounds. He has a very big house and things like this. Is related to can be explained by his money laundering, massive money laundering, using that illegal financial constructions with, on the one hand, that bank account of my mother, the Costabiti, and on the other hand, the illegal and criminal use of my name and my activity behind my back and without my consent. In that financial construction that was disclosed by Longevaker in 2013, and that has been put into place by mafia members, Pierre Van Yperseel, living in Hungarian, the city of Hungarian, Belgium, and Francis Soutens, of course, mafia member and head of the Belfius agencies in the cities of Ath and Hungarian, Ath, Silly, and Hungarian, which explains also why there are people who have participated in mafia in money laundering activities in those in the region and also in those cities, most probably, especially in Silly. So now I'm going to turn to Till Emmanuel. You have to know that he's probably the one. He, as a mafia member, he's the one who has hired the Hungarian uncle of the children, Gyuri Szabolcs. He knew him. He has approached him because they needed someone in Hungary that would be in charge with trying to produce fake charges against me and my ex-wife, so that, because the plan of the mafia was that would be deprived of our parental rights, while, as I said already, it's totally illegal and criminal. But the role of the Hungarian grand uncle of the children was to, on the one hand, to produce evidence that would feed these mafia proceedings, like testimonies, like evidence. That's why he sometimes he of course provoked the anger of his own sister, so my ex-wife and mother of the children, Gyuri Esther, so that he would then later film them, and that they could later be used as evidence in these mafia proceedings in Hungary. That was his role, was to feed the proceedings on the one hand, and on the other hand, his role was also to deceive his own Hungarian grandparents and his own Hungarian parents, based on 2 fake papers produced by the police, with which the police lures the Hungarian grandparents thinking that they have all parental authority, that they are become the legal guardians of the children, that we have no authority anymore, and things like this. So he knew, because Vincent Junta didn't know anyone, and he was the one who knew, because I invited him already in Hungary before, without knowing that he was a member of the mafia. He knew the Hungarian grand uncle, and he decided to approach him and to suggest, to maybe to pay him or to promise him that he would be paid in exchange of his mafia activities. He's like a kind of interface between the Belgian mafia and this Hungarian cell, especially the Hungarian grand uncle of the children. It has to be known that the Hungarian cell is protected by the police, especially police in the city of Mosomegyeróvár, north of Hungary, just like in Belgium the mafia is protected by police. I will come to it later on. So Till Emmanuel. Then there is there is what should I say? There is Wimas. Wimas is a public notary with office Wittebuch 100 GV001 in the city of Oost-Duinkerke, which is at the Belgian seaside. And his role was to make a sign, a paper, in which he was attributing to us statements regarding a legacy of which we don't know anything, of course. We were forced to sign that paper, my ex-wife also, while she didn't know any word of Dutch. We were not given lecture of that document. My ex-wife asked if she could have an interpreter. The guy said no, and it was only later on that we discovered that actually this public notary made an illegal inventory of the goods of the legacy, because actually normally, according to the Belgian rule of law, an inventory, when as I said, when children are involved, normally the inventory has to be thorough, has to be accurate, and may not be based on mere statements made by the parties. But here what happened is that we didn't get that inventory that we have always asked, that the inventory pursuant to the rule of law. We did never get that inventory, but we got the inventory, this illegal inventory, in which this only based on statements. So this is already contrary to the rule of law, and it's also all the more criminal that it's based on statements that were fakely attributed to us, while the other, while we didn't know anything about that, and we were forced to sign that inventory, because the aim of the mafia is that later they could say, look, Longeval Christophe and Dury Esther, they knew about everything and they made fake statements. And that will be the role of another member of the mafia who is protecting the group. That would be the role, of course, of the king's prosecutor of West Flanders. He is the one who will be in charge of falsely convicting him or charging, attributing us fake charges, so that I could be sent in prison, my ex-wife as well, and the children could be indebted. They will use this inventory that was produced by mafia member Wimas, just like they will use also these the bank statements that were produced and that relate to mafia activities, but that were produced using parallel underground financial construction, and that were sent most probably to the address of that house of Mr. Pierre Van Yperseel, 56 Rue des Capucins in the city of Hungarian, probably using my name. They will use everything at the end when and that will be the role of the most probably King's prosecutor of West Flanders, because the mafia proceeding 161553A is taking place in Bruges, Belgium. So that's the danger that we are facing. Fake charges and imprisonment based on fake trials, false trials, mafia trials, and fake charges. All this has been imagined by the ill brain of Mr. Vincent Diunta, who is commanding the operation. Also, this explains why King's prosecutors of Mons, Belgium, is acting mafia-like. Why? Because King's prosecutor of Mons is working like Vincent Diunta. He's a colleague of Mr. Vincent Diunta. They know each other very well, and he's the one who, of course, as we discovered, who enabled the use of illegal surveillance and monitoring methods and devices, not only in our homes but also in our car. Normally, these kind of things have to be are subject to authorization by the King's prosecutor. Here, the King's prosecutor of Mons, since we were living in the village of Ellebec. He is the one who gave the authorization to install devices in our home and in our car, probably upon instructions or upon request from Mr. Vincent Junta, and since they are friends. This means that we were in Belgium constantly tracked in our cars and in our home. We noticed devices. We found them in January 2018. We noticed devices with which they could spy our conversation. Why? Because the aim of all this is that the mafia could always master our communication, master our everything, our computer, our communication, our emails, and know where we go, know what we do, to whom we write, because you have to know that the mafia, one of the pillars of mafia strategy, is controlling communications, so that they can, behind the back, they always act behind the back. The mafia is always acting behind the back, so that they could interfere and contact the people they need against us. This is why we have been prevented from, for instance, denouncing the mafia to the King of Belgium. We were standing in front of the Royal Palace, and what happened? We wanted to give him a paper containing asking him to please help us, but we could of course never approach him, although his car is reaching the grid sometimes of the palace. We hoped that we could hand him a paper over, but that didn't happen because the police was there, and the police was told to instead tell us that, our paper, we should give it to them, we can give it to them, they would give it to the police. But it's not like that, and the police okay? That is one thing. We wanted to reach, for example, federal prosecutor Frédéric Van Leu, because he is the man who is in charge with transnational crimes and organized criminality and mafia networks. But what happened is that when we wanted to go there, of course, the secretary had already been contacted, and they were given the instructions to rather orient us, direct us towards Michel Claes. Michel Claes telling us he's very competent, we will help you. And Michel Claes is an investigating judge who is on the side of the mafia. So it's always due to interference behind our back, everything, because of these means that are put at the disposal of police forces against us as if we were criminals, but they are based on authorization of king's prosecutors. You have to know that in order that surveillance means, monitoring means be used by police forces, they are subject, of course, to the authorization of the king's prosecutors, but there must be real ground, very, 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 very severe ground for that. And it can only be used for a limited period of time. We suppose that there was no ground. Not only there was no ground, and there is no ground for that, but also it has been used now for many, many years. Thank you.